the one thing that everyone looks for in their lifetime. So hopefully if anyone is feeling lonely, or they're going through a process, or they feel that their love is unrequited or a loss, or even that they're so fortunate to be in love, this book would probably be for them.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi, and welcome to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nuske. I have to say thank you so very much for everybody who is tuning in, who gives us some wonderful feedback about what they take away from the show. And today will be no different. You're going to take away some amazing content. And I'm on the line with Valerie Nifora, who is a storyteller. She's an author and speaker. So welcome to the show, Valerie.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Now, I've been looking over your bio, and I think everybody's going to really enjoy this call because it takes us through your experiences as a storyteller, obviously an author and a speaker. But before we do that, Valerie, I'd love to share a little bit about your background and what you like to do when you're not working and speaking and so
on. I'm always working.
There's very little time for play.
Not work. No, I don't. You know, it's so funny. I don't have tremendous hobbies, which is probably unfortunate. My biggest hobby is writing, which is also part of my work. Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely one of those people that does what she loves, and I love writing. I love the written word. I love the power of words and the magic of words. And I think it goes back a lot to my background. I'm a Greek American. My parents came here from Greece. And anybody who ever went to Greek school, the first thing that we had to do was memorize words, right?
Yes.
Poems. So the words, the sounding and the rhythm of those words. And that's kind of what always stuck with me. And then I learned Greek first and English going to school. And so translation and the meaning of words and how things translate was something that became very apparent to me as I was learning English growing up. So that, I guess that's my hobby. It's writing, it's reading, and then working. And as you mentioned, I've spent over 20 years in a Fortune 50 as a marketing communications leader. So I definitely took my passion and made it part of my profession.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Now, for everybody's on the call, just for a bit of background, Valerie also holds a B.A. in communications from Emerson College and an M.B.A. from Fordham University. I wonder, has any of your educational experience gone towards forming your views about how writing should be done?
No. Sorry. I wish I could say yes, but no, I think for me, when I was at Emerson, we studied a lot about advertising. So I don't think there's a proper way to do it, or it's all about being able to be authentic and to be authentic to a brand. I spent a lot of time as a brand and corporate storyteller is what I consider myself, because you're taking a brand and making it tangible and real, and so words are a really important part of that, along with your visuals, of course. But so part of communications is that you talk, and there's a receiver, and there's a feedback loop, right? You say something, someone says something, you get some feedback, and then the communication continues in a circle. I think that was probably the thing that I took out the most. And then Fordham spends a lot of time talking about ethical marketing and doing marketing in the right way and making sure that you're providing value. So my education has shaped my view of how I do my profession and what I think the value is in my profession and the value that it can provide.
This is obviously a step to the right with your passion for writing. When was it that you recognized that you had this spark and enjoyed writing? Was it at an early age?
I remember I wrote my first book when I was in 4th grade. And the teacher had us write it, and we had to bind it, and I gave it to my mom, and it's sitting somewhere on the bottom of her drawer, along with all the other drawings and pictures and things that you do in school. And so what's really magical about that is that I gave her a copy of the book that I wrote now, and the cover photo is of my mother's village in Greece. So it was really wild being able to say, hey, Mom, remember that book I gave you in 4th grade that I drew? Remember that? Here's a real book, and by the way, that's your village on the cover. I don't think she really understood what that was that I was doing necessarily. And I should say that it goes beyond being personal, not because of only the cover of my mother, but the photograph is from my cousin. He took the picture in the village.
It's a wonderful image. I love that picture. You know, it's kind of like...
Isn't it lovely?
It is. It's just,
for me,
it's natural and it's real.
For me, it's pretty much what love should be, right? Thomas Aquinas said, love is willing the good of the other. And that's what that photograph says to me.
Yeah, that's a profound statement, isn't it? Willing the good of another. It's
Yep.
And I wonder, with being married and having two boys, sometimes I find being married and having 2 children myself, that the romance seems to die. The daily grind gets in the way. Somebody who authors something like this wonderful book, how do you go about keeping romance alive? Do you talk about it? What happens in your world?
What happens in my world is my husband makes me smile when he walks into a door. And it's funny because it doesn't matter how angry I am or if we had an argument or whatever it is, but if he walks in the room, I'm like, yeah, I like that guy. And I think that's pretty much the trick.
I was just stick around.
I like him. I think I met him. Anybody who knows us knows this story, so I'll share it.
Yeah, great.
I met him when I was 19 in a movie theater parking lot. He was on leave from the service, and when I saw him, I just got really quiet, and I thought, wow, there's something about him. And so to this day, yes, we are married. We have 2 children, and he can walk in the door at any moment in time, and he still makes me smile. There's something about him being there. So that makes me happy. And I think that he's been my best friend, too. And I think that's the trick in life, is to have someone who's your friend that goes with you. We weren't always a couple. We were friends for a really, really long time. And, yeah. And I dedicated the book to him, incidentally.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I look at it and I think, wow, there must be some great stories in this. Do you find that when talking about this particular book, both men and women want to get their hands on it? Because I know that you're currently going through a launch with this. What's the feedback been thus far?
It's been really positive. I'm fortunate in that, yes, men and women have reviewed it, and they have liked it. And the quote on the back is from a gentleman. Can I read it to you?
Absolutely.
It says, it's Robert Robinson, the executive producer of The Dinner Salon, and it says, there are those who think of me as a tough guy, but those who know me know I love the things in life that provide the simple yet purest joys. Romance and poetry fall into that category, and Valerie's poems not only are magnificent to read, but they stick with you. You will find yourself thinking about them and about her and the love and passions that fueled her fires to create such magical works. This is a collection for the romantic in you, for you to share with your lover, and for everyone who wants to have their breath taken away.
Yes,
so
that's wonderful.
I think that's the nicest one I've ever had. Lovely.
It is wonderful. I sit here and I think to myself, where do you draw your inspiration? Where does that idea come from to write poetry of this nature?
So it's a muse, really. It's not intentional. I'll be minding my own business, having my own day, and then there'll be a pattern that kind of shows up, and it shows up with words, and it kind of insists that I take a pencil and write it down. It doesn't go away until I release it. So I'm probably the worst in the sense that there are writers who sit I have friends who are writers, and they'll sit and they'll write every day. Like they have a routine. They'll sit and they'll write, 8 o'clock till, noon, and then they'll take a lunch, and then they'll go back to it. But that's not how it works for me. There's always this trigger, this muse, this thing that happens in life, or something that I'll look at, and it just shows up. And it's a pattern and a rhythm, and the words just flow. And then when it's sufficiently removed from my head, then it goes away for a while, and then I go on and I live, which is probably why this whole book took me 15 years. I've been writing this thing for 15 years. It's a long process.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that there's more to be said for the power in the pen, or do you type it into a computer? What's your process?
So I write it. I write it in a journal. I write it by hand, and then I go through it, and I listen to each word, and what does it sound like, and what's the rhythm, what's the pattern, and I'll edit it, and I'll keep going, and I'll scribble, and I'll write it again. And in the book, you can actually see a journal page, or you can watch one of my process, really. And when it's done, then I'll type it, and I sent them to my publisher. But up until then, it's always the pen. There's something that a neurological magic that happens when your hand is moving and your brain is thinking, and the words just kind of flow through. They call it the romantic in me. I think I just enjoy that process of writing.
No, I agree. I've held the view for a long time that there is a special kind of power in the pen, for that very reason. Now, I'm focused on your authorship and the process you're following, because I know that a lot of the My Future Business audience loves book authors. I have a lot of book authors on the show because I myself am a book lover. Now, for those who want to go about writing this, but they don't have this need to be, bound to a time limit, using you as an example here, do you just take your time and you just let it come, or can you force it on any given day?
Nope. Whenever it shows up, and I'll do it. I can be patient, and I just let it be. I let it breathe, and I think that's the trick. And it depends on the person. Like I said, I have successful friends who are authors, who have done very well, and they have this is what they do. This is their pattern, and they write certain hours every single day, no matter what, and they produce wonderful things. It just doesn't work that way for me. And I think for me, it's good that I have a profession, right? So I'm in marketing communications, and this is the other part of that. This is my hobby, my art, my thing that I do to express myself. And so because it isn't the only thing that I do, I don't have to force it. I don't have to require it to show up every day. And I think that's what makes it easier for me. It's the way I handle my craft. I don't.
It's not a force-fed thing.
I don't let it become all-consuming. Yeah,
that's fantastic. And
it'll come when it wants to come.
Absolutely. There's some sage advice here for those who are looking to become an author, write their own book. There's not necessarily a need to rush. Do what you love doing is the message that I'm taking away from this call. Now, as long as we have 2 feet and a heartbeat, I suspect that your need to continue writing is as strong as it was over the last 15 years as it is today. Are you continuing to write?
Yes, always. I'm trying to figure out what's the next thing. I have things written, so it's just a matter of figuring out, well, what's the next thing that I want to hand off to my publisher and say, what do you think about this? But I always wrote. It was my saving grace. It was the way that I processed my life, the world, the things that I saw. And so, yes, I always have. And I think anybody who writes or who loves to write does that. You have journals and notebooks and things piled up someplace that you've forgotten. And if you haven't started writing and you want to write, then I suggest you do it. There's nothing that stops you. I forget who said it, but there's this idea that the most valuable real estate in the world is a graveyard, because that's where all life's ambitions or unfulfilled dreams and desires lay, right? And so for me, it was a dream of mine since I was a little kid. I wanted to write a book. I chose not to self-publish it. It took a really long time to find someone to believe in the project and bring it forward. I found that person, and here I am 15 years later. So it's all about what you want to accomplish and why you want to do what you do. And for me, I wrote this book, or I shared this collection of poetry, which is very personal, about 15 years of falling in and out of love, as it were, because I wanted people to know that wherever they are in their journey, that they're not alone. And I think that, for me anyway, love is the most powerful force in the universe. It's been used to justify some horrible atrocities in the universe, and it's been used to uplift the most incredible things in the universe. And of all the different types of love, you know, in Greek history, culture, mythology, we have all these different types of love, right? This one deals with eros, so it's the idea of romantic love. And for me, romantic love is also very powerful, and it's the one thing that everyone looks for in their lifetime. So hopefully, if anyone is feeling lonely, or they're going through a process, or they feel that their love is unrequited, or a loss, or even that they're so fortunate to be in love, this book would probably be for them, because I broke it up into 3 sections that chronicles how love really goes through a circle. From that you were talking about earlier, from being in love, so desperately in love, and you're like, I can't believe this is so wonderful, I'm so fortunate, to like where you start maybe bickering. You get to the part where you bicker, and then you get to the part where you're like, I can't believe that we're even in a relationship. How did this even happen? And then it's up to you to choose to go back through that cycle again, where it's cyclical, and that's what the book does.
So we can most certainly refer to this book and maybe read some of the poems in the book to our partners to rekindle love.
Sure, absolutely.
Fantastic.
You want me to read you one?
Absolutely.
All right, let me find you one. We were just talking about this before I joined you, actually. It's called Upon Your Leaving, so let me find it. Give me 1 second. Upon your leaving, the earth does cease, and fragrant flowers bloom their last release. Upon your leaving, my heart grows cold, and mirth and gladness from my lips last told. Upon your leaving, my soul grows dark. No song can fill it, no chime, no lark. Upon your leaving, there is no light. I dwell in darkness in moonless night.
How many poems do you actually have in this wonderful book?
I think there's over 50.
I guess 15 years. There you go. There's no question in my mind that this is a book that everybody needs to get their hands on, especially those who are of the romantic nature. I wonder, I want to talk a little bit about and explore various influences that you have, be they environmental influences that trigger this need to, this muse, this need to write, as well as your children. Do you find that they are a source of any sort of writing inspiration for you?
My children, I inspire a lot of humor writing. So humor.
Humor writing.
Humor pieces.
Yep.
I'll write that for them. Environmental.
Where you are, you might be on travels, or you might be down the beach.
No, I don't travel. I'm probably the most boring human alive. Nope. I don't travel. I don't like to travel.
Bit of a homebody.
Yeah, I like being home a lot.
Fantastic. Me too.
I think it's just people. I'm inspired by humans. I'm inspired by people. I'll go to the grocery store and there's a person there, and they have a story. They have a life. There's something about them. I think that's the part that we sometimes miss, that everybody's really special. We forget that everybody's special. Every single human being is special. They all have their own unique talents, their own unique capabilities, their own unique processes, and we sometimes don't see people. We miss them in our rush to do whatever it is that we think makes us so unbelievably and terribly important. So most of my inspiration, the things that I write about, is what I've seen. I saw, this person walking his dog today, and it just sort of made me stop and think about something. Or, this woman at the grocery store, or it could be somebody on the train when I have to go into work, or a homeless human being who has a sign that says that they needed something today. Or my child comes home and tells me a story about something that happened. For me, it's the act of living and being with people that that inspires me to write. So it's not, there's
not one particular thing, is there?
No, it's the human beings. It's interacting with people and just being awake and just being aware that you're alive. I think we forget that.
I'm sitting here, and it's fascinating for me to delve into your mind and understand the inner workings of your being, because it's such a, I guess, a perspective that it's so simple but powerful. Just the ability to look at another human being in such a busy society that we have today and appreciate what they're doing. Even the basic walking a dog triggers you to write some amazing pieces. So it's just amazing. Now, I've looked at and listened to your video on your website, I Love You Eternal. Tell us a little bit about that particular piece of work.
Well, that's for my husband, so that's easy. And it's called, so it's really short. It says, I love you eternal until time does cease, for in your soul I have found perfect peace. And I wrote that for my husband after our first official for real date. And I went home. We had a nice day. We went and saw a movie. I came home. I was living with my parents. I came up the stairs, and I thought, And then I just sort of scribbled it on a little piece of paper. And then I sent it to him the next day. I said, Alan, I was thinking, and this came to me, and this is how I feel, because that's how I feel. It's just, and I think when you find that person that you just feel peaceful with, right? You just know that there's goodness there, and it's just calm, and it's peaceful, and it's a soft place to rest, or a soft place to go. I think that's one of the things that we sometimes miss, and a lot of people don't have that one human being that they can go and say, I had a really rough day. I need to talk to somebody. Will you be that person for me? And as I said, I was fortunate in that he was my friend for such a long time.
Alan seems like that soft place to fall.
He's wonderful. Yeah, I'm fortunate. I'm really lucky.
Oh, look, it's
Poor guy.
No, absolutely not. There's such a spark with you, and it's just an amazing relationship. We can all learn something from this. And I went on and I looked at another one on your website, which is wonderful. I'd love to talk more about it. Is Leave Me in My Sorrow.
Oh, yeah. Yes, leave me in my sorrow, leave me in my despair. The funny thing about that video is I've gotten a lot of comments about the gentleman that's in that video. The gentleman in that video is my cousin Ilia Grammatikoyannis. He's the one who took the photograph. So he's featured. So that's my cousin who took the picture of the cover. And he does the most amazing photography. So when I had written that poem a long time ago, and then he had sent me a picture that he called his self-portrait. And I just thought that the two together worked so beautifully. And I wrote that poem because I think that a lot of times people are just so stuck in their sadness, right?
Yes.
It goes, leave me in my sorrow, leave me in my despair. Do not reach with your gentle touch and lift me into the air. Leave me in my anger, leave me in my night. Do not grasp me with your hand and bring me to the light. Leave me in my shadow, leave me with my tears. Breathe not your breath upon my face and vanquish all my fears.
I'm tingling, I have to say. I know that it's affecting me when I start to tingle. Thank you so much for reading it to me. It's one thing to
Sure.
look at it on your website, but to hear it from the author herself, that is just magical. Thank you so much. I'm blessed. I'd love to talk a little bit about what's coming up for you, because I know it's very important and the timing is critical here. This is a brand new book that's being released now. What is the process?
Today, as a matter of fact.
What is happening?
So today.
Yeah. So
today's the day.
Today is that magical day. Everybody needs to go out and get it. I'm going to make sure that the
day.
links. And you're also doing you're doing book signings as well.
I do. I have a bunch. I live in New York, so there's in the U.S.
Imagine that.
I just assume everybody knows where New York is. How New York of me, just to say New York, and so the whole universe must know what that means, right? Right. I was born here, so I carry that with me, unfortunately. So I was like, wait, there's other places outside of New York? What?
Yeah, just a few.
Anyway, sorry. But yeah, so there's a book tour that's coming in and out of New York to start, which is pretty exciting for me since I live out here.
Yeah, so
I'm excited about that, but today's the first day, and the thing that was really neat is I think I did what all authors do, is I was constantly Googling my book to see like who was picking it up. So I know it's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and I know that it's at Target for those who have a Target near them, and then I know it's in Australia, I know it's in Chile. It's funny because I would see it come up on Pinterest, you know, like, oh, there's my cover. I'm like, oh, somebody posted it from the UK, you know?
Well,
it's such a weird thing.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, I wrote that thing. Man, somebody wrote a review? Somebody liked it? What? What happened? Because when you sit there behind your desk and you're just sitting there with a pen and you're writing these little poems, like I said, you know, whatever happened to me in the universe that day, and I'm like, oh, okay, I wrote this down. You don't realize that it lives now. It has its own life. And I think that's what my cousin Elia was saying, that when any author, when you create something, it now has its own life. Like you just kind of just sent it out to the universe, and off it's going to go to be perceived or interpreted or regarded or not.
It's like that steam train, isn't it? Once it gets momentum, there is no way that you can stop it. It's out in the wild.
It's gone.
It's gone. Now,
So,
I know
off it goes.
you're starting at the book review in Huntington, New York.
Yes, in Huntington, New York. That's where my book launch party is. It's on December 12th at 7 o'clock, and I'm pretty excited to be there. They've had some really amazing authors, and the amount of convincing it took. But I'm really excited. So it's in Huntington. It's called the Book Review. They're one of the largest independent bookstores here out in New York. So it's definitely an honor to be included there.
Yes, that's it's wonderful. Now, for everybody who is wondering where the subsequent book signings will be, there is a list there. I'm going to make sure that you have access to those. In actual fact, one's on April 4th, so I won't forget that because that's my birth date. So,
oh, happy early birthday!
Oh, thank you very much. And also, I'd really love to touch on whether or not you're doing any events other than this at the moment. What's coming up for you? Do you have any speaking engagements or anything like that?
Nothing that I can announce for 2020 yet. They haven't all been finalized, but fingers crossed. And certainly, I'm happy to speak. Anybody listening, you can find me. Glad to have a conversation. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problems at all. Look, it's a wonderful website, and I think one of the most important things that you can do right now, Valerie, is share the process and where people are going to go to find you and learn more about you.
So you can visit me on my website, which is www.valerienifora.com, and that's Valerie, Valerie, Nifora, Nifora. So you could see how to contact me. There's a contact me button there. Just reach out and I will absolutely respond. And you could see my poetry, my poems, my blogs for when I write. I do write business blogs as well as, blogs about life. The poor gentleman who was walking his dog. So it's not just poetry. And they could always find me there. I'm so easy to find, and you could also find me on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, as well as Twitter.
Fantastic. Well, look, everybody who's on the call today, I'm telling you right now, I'm tingling listening to some of the works of IAskedTheWind. Make sure you get a copy of this particular book. I know it will be a fantastic experience for you. Valerie, it's been such a wonderful treat spending some time with you on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure, and thank you for letting me share. It was definitely a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.